1 inch, and I'm talking about the ice portion alone, the freezing rain portion alone, could potentially exceed 1 inch or maybe 2 inches. Factor in sleet, amounts could be greater than that. More on, again, how all those different types figure into this coming up here in a couple of minutes. And yeah, power outages are expected, unfortunately. We're going to look at how the convective portion, the thunder portion of this figures in a second. Believe it or not, I went and found Storm Finder, one of those things you'll only find here on Mississippi Live, and it shows the lightning. So it's coming. So we're looking at, you can see 29 degrees at 11 p.m., 27 by 2 a.m., 24 by 5 a.m., somewhere mid-20s to begin the day early on your Saturday. And there's going to be moisture falling the whole time. And that moisture is going to be falling as a combination of sleet, rain that freezes when it makes contact with the ground. There will be some snowflakes and rainfall. So it's basically like, what are we going to get tonight? A little bit of everything. Now, you're not going to get a little bit of everything. Depending on where you're at, you might get a lot of just one of those things. Here's Mississippi Live Mama Justice Doppler radar at this point, showing some of those snow showers moving into and through the area. We'll look a lot more detail at this here in a minute, but as you can see from Clarksdale back to West Helena, Arkansas, we do have a bit of a contrast there. And yes, we have some of this coating in as snow. Now, I have seen in my chat with the National Weather Service that I've looked at, I haven't seen a single report of actual snow coming in out of this here. I'm going to bring Gabe in here for a second. He's got something to say. Our meteorologist, Gabe Maynor. Gabe, what you got?
Well, new information that I just got from one of our weather watchers out in Clarksdale, submitting a video of sleet on the ground. And it's in videos right now if you want to play that. But we are getting confirmed reports that sleet is making its way to the surface.
Okay, so we will pull that up. If you get that, can you get it in the preview monitor there, and then we'll just hit merge when the time comes?
Yeah, let me go pull it up in the back, behind the scenes.
Okay, that's what we'll do. Appreciate that. Our meteorologist, Gabe Maynor, again, of some of that precipitation already reported making it to the ground. So on Mama Justice Doppler radar, we at least have that. So this storm system, very heavy, even back there into Texas. I want to show this because this is one of those things we've talked about. We talked about the thunder something. You see how it's like there's random red in the middle of this blue out in Oklahoma, and I'm not going to dwell on what they have, but that's that thunder whatever. That's the thunder, in this case, snow ongoing out there. It's so heavy in some of those bands that I just, over 50 dBZs, which is a very strong return for snowfall, I just have it code in as red because that's heavy enough to be a storm. So that's one way in which you can kind of tell that's the case. Let's wind things out across the southeastern United States, kind of show our overall setup. This low back out here into Texas is going, it's kind of there now. It's going to develop more as it moves over top of Mississippi. Remember how earlier in the week we said the thing that was missing, that was different from this pattern, we didn't have that low in the Gulf that was going to move up? Lo and behold, that's what's going to happen and help feed in the extra warmth. That's what helps produce the warmer layer loft and all the issues associated with that. Here's that shot of sleet from the Delta. This coming in from Rebecca Greenway there in Clarksdale. There's that basically sleet all over the ground that they have out there already. So that's a sign. I'm going to restart that again here for you. That's kind of a sign of just that's a pretty decent quantity for only a couple of hours of activity. So not exactly a pretty sign there. And hopefully that's not a sign of things to come. Appreciate Rebecca for that video that she sent in. Okay, so let's look at the overview here on Futurecast tonight, and then we're going to get into our Storm Finder, which I can't believe we're going into the winter event, and I'm going to pull up Storm Finder, but Mississippi for you, right? We're in the heart of where we expect the maximum impacts from this, because you can see lots of moisture coming up from the Gulf of Mexico, and I'm going to come in, we're going to go really close, and we're going to walk hour by hour through all this stuff going on here, okay? But I want to show you in the wide shot for the first part here, that it's that moisture coming up from the Gulf, lots of moisture, and all of this that we have down there toward Houston, out toward the, south of Baton Rouge there. This is all convective. This is all thunderstorms. And see how that moves up toward us? That's a lot of unstable air, far more than we typically get out of a winter system. And unfortunately, that means that there are going to be major icing potential out of this as well. Over the next 24 hours, as you can see here, we're looking at 6 a.m. at 24 degrees, 26 by 9 a.m., 30 as we go toward noontime, and 32 by 3 p.m. We might actually have some temperatures to go up into tomorrow evening and tomorrow night as the system continues to develop overhead. an ice storm beginning and will be significant. Gabe's trying to get my attention, but we'll talk to him as we break down everything here coming up in 60 seconds of the Room to Room Weather Center as Mississippi Live Weather continues here. Again, support those sponsors that support us here on Mississippi Live Weather. We're looking at Storm Finder. We're looking at where we're going to get some very significant icing out of what could very easily be one of the most significant ice storms that I've ever been a part of. Hopefully not the most significant you've been. More after this.
When you've been injured, don't settle for a lawyer who doesn't even know where you live. Call Langston and Lott. Local lawyers, personal service, real results.
As a bankruptcy firm, Mitchell, Cunningham, and Bowling realizes many people are worried about their finances. We're here to guide you through the next steps to restart your life with easy video appointments. New clients don't have to leave home to get information about becoming debt-free. Also, convenient in-office appointments are available at the low cost of $340 upfront for a Chapter 13. You can be on your way to being debt-free. Contact Mitchell, Cunningham, and Bowling today or visit our website at mcdebtfree.com. We are here to help you.
At First Choice Bank, we know you can't always make it before the bank closes. With our integrated teller, you can talk to a live person as late as 7 p.m. on weekdays and noon on Saturdays. It's not just an ATM, it's an ITM. First Choice Bank, your choice for banking.
Right now, from the Room to Room Weather Center, here's Mississippi's Chief Meteorologist, Matt Lobhon.
The ice storm has began here in the Batesville area. You're watching Mississippi Live Weather at 10 p.m. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lobhon, and Batesville is one of those locations where we could be talking about inches with an S of ice that fall with this storm. So I don't know who that guy is, and I'm not going to do that thing I sometimes do, but we need to all be getting home and all be getting to our final destination. We're planning on staying the next week because unfortunately, next week, God, I hope that's not just a Freudian slip. But we need to be going to the place that we're planning on staying for a little while longer because it's not just there. It's also, as we go kind of on pretty much all of our cameras out in the Delta, the one in Crenshaw, starting to see again a little bit more accumulation there on the ground, certainly some glossiness showing up there, looking at the surfaces. And same kind of story when we go back there to Clarksdale. We've had reports in each of those three cases of obviously that winter precipitation falling. I did go back and I was able to see at least one spotter about 2 hours ago that reported some snow falling in Helena, Arkansas. But that's kind of more the exception to the rule. I want to bring in our meteorologist, Gabe Maynard here. And Gabe, of course, with new information on the expansion of these advisories, unfortunately, including some folks that we've been waiting to see how they were going to go, right?
Yeah, latest out of Jackson, we were talking about a winter storm watch in effect for Golden Triangle and for counties south of Highway 82. Now seeing those ice storm warnings in effect heading into your weekend. If we take a look at those current alerts, you can see that folks in Starkville, Columbus, Louisville, Kosciuszko, even around the Ackerman area going to be under that ice storm warning. And if we take a look at the time that we're expecting that to last till, we can see right there, 6 p.m. on Sunday. So that confirms one thing that we've been talking about over the past 24 hours. Those temperatures started to gradually shift a little bit more south and east, and that's why that line has been carried south and east as well, potentially resulting in those impacts with ice storm warnings, those ice accumulations now possible for folks in the Golden Triangle. So again, thoughts and prayers go for folks that are going to be in those areas, but Matt, just confirming what we've been looking at all day long when talking about trends. It's just gone further south. And that's going to add to the number of people impacted here in North Mississippi.
You know, and we're always looking at evolving data. I appreciate that. That's our meteorologist, Gabe Maynard. And one of the things that evolving data has shown us back on the plains is unfortunately this is overproduced, not underproduced. And hopefully that's not the way it plays out for us. I'm going to bring up Mama Justice Doppler radar again, showing you what is occurring right now. I'm going to pull off those advisories so we kind of clear things off of this. And most of what we have out here is, I have this in the same sensitivity I would use in typical rainfall, but we have to make the radar more sensitive to pick up wintry precipitation like this. I'm going to kind of fill that in a little bit more. And you can see that's where we're having some of that meaningful icing already starting to occur for locations out here, such as Bruce and Water Valley. Again, Yalobusha County, Grenada County, Calhoun County, all under this ice storm warning. And this is the beginning, starting with some sleet, as we've talked about, and then mixing in more and more in the way of, freezing rain. And there is potentially some snowfall up there in Senatobia. I'd actually like to check in with our meteorologist, Maggie McCauley, see what she's doing. But she's probably getting her sleep, getting ready for tomorrow. One of us has to kind of charge up on the energy. But that snowfall is moving in. We expect it to continue to move in, as well as the sleet. And again, the sleet is the main story out of most of this. I honestly believe probably some of this up there toward Como and up toward Holly Springs is probably some sleet as well. I'm going to change this over to our site out of the Columbus Air Force Base or Monroe County, or however you want to put that there. As I put this back over there in the snow mode, we're kind of seeing a little bit of that, trying to get a little sleet out there closer to Houston as well. So this is going to really start adding up as we go into the overnight time period here. So again, what are we looking at and why? Let's talk about this. This is going to be some words that we continue to throw around that are important, and so we need to discuss. First off, rain is obvious. It's warm all the way down. Freezing rain doesn't sound as bad as it is, but it's snowfall that melts completely into a full-on rain droplet, and then the cold air near the surface is just thick enough to get it to refreeze. And so what happens is it falls as a liquid raindrop, but it hits the surface and freezes instantly. This is where we get the tree branches coming down, the power lines coming down. This is public enemy number one. Sleet is not good, but it's not freezing rain bad. See, sleet refreezes pretty much completely. And so as part of that process, it makes it to where it actually kind of bounces a little bit when it hits surfaces. And you can have something that's kind of a slushy mix between these two. But sleet is ice. It's slippery. It's going to mess up you trying to travel, but it doesn't have the same power impacts. So again, snowfall, not impossibility, but it's warmer air above the surface that's going to be giving us primarily, in many cases, that freezing rain. Here's Storm Finder, something you'll see only on Mississippi Live. We designed this for severe weather, but it is also helping us here, looking at just the heavy precipitation and looking for lightning. See that? Those lightning strikes there? That's telling us that these storms are strong enough, going vigorous enough to produce some lightning, and that's something we got to watch. Now, listen, it's not ridiculously impressive in our area, but you see how it kind of looks hazy here? That's indication that there will potentially be some lightning for folks back there toward south of Greenville. If you watch this closely, you're kind of looking to see briefly there in the, kind of afternoon time period, not impossible that we have a few that are in our, up here in the northern part of the state as well. Now, we're more likely, I think, late tomorrow night to have some potential to have a few of these showers become convective, where they have a little bit more in the way of that lightning with them, and also continuing the first part of early Sunday morning. So unfortunately, there's a pretty decent window there where we have the opportunity to see some lightning with these. And if they produce lightning, that means they're thunderstorms. And you know this from every time we get thunderstorms, how a person a mile down the road might get 2 inches of rainfall. You think about this in summer. They get 2 inches of rain, you got nothing. So you can have very, very concentrated amounts. And if we get unlucky enough that it is below freezing when one of these comes over top of you, we've had localized icing amounts easily in excess of 2 inches. I'm hoping that's not the case. But that is a possibility. I think that's part of the reason they upgraded that ice storm warning. Now, 6:30 Sunday morning, the warmer temperatures would be kind of east here. And so it's possible this works out to our benefit. But I want you to see how this just kind of looks like. I mean, these is the line of legit thunderstorms. And there are some indications, our projections, as I just go wide on this for a second, is this just a ton of moisture coming right out of the Gulf of Mexico? It's not inconceivable we could have severe thunderstorms down in South Alabama and South Mississippi, and a tornado is not impossible out of this system, believe it or not. That's how kind of vigorous it is, largely in some ways developing right overhead. So what to expect? This is the exact same graphic we've been showing for 36 hours now. The only thing I changed that up there. It said starts Friday evening. Well, we're Friday evening, so we said through Sunday. So hopefully you're prepared if you live in this orange area here for those peak impacts. Significant icing, power outages, and the potential that not just you're not going to be able to travel. You're going to be stuck where you're at for a while. But if you live in this pink zone as well, you're still going to have some significant icing. It's just the difference is We have the potential for historic icing, and then we have the potential for significant icing. In a typical ice storm, everything that we are showing for locations like Amory, Starkville, Kosciuszko, I mean, that would be big. But that shows you just how significant what we have is. So confidence on what we're looking at here. The only thing I could potentially change on this graphic is up here at the top. I might be able to argue slightly higher on this for limited snowfall accumulations near the Tennessee state line. But largely the sleet, that thunder potential going on with this, major issues are possible over the next couple of days, and travel is just highly discouraged. Gabe is waving me down there. Our meteorologist Gabe Maynard back in the studio. Gabe, what do you got? Well, hold on. By the way, we use all caps on those lower thirds. Gabe, what's up?
Well, latest out of Lafayette County, we are confirming that sleet is starting to fall. This submitted by the North Mississippi Storm Chasers, getting a visual of what Colby's seeing out there in Lafayette. So there you're getting a look, the sleet bouncing off of the car. I mean, it's small, but it's still sleet, and it's still early. And that's where folks just need to be getting prepared. I mean, this is Lafayette County. This is well into North Mississippi and continuing to work its way east. So we are keeping eyes on this, of course, as it moves deeper, but this is just confirming that the storm, it's here.
It is here. That's, again, Colby Spurl with the North Mississippi Storm Chasers there. You can, of course, share your information, your pictures with us using the Mississippi Live weather app. Appreciate that, Gabe, as we kind of bring things back in here. We're going to get through a lot of this broadcast, and then we're going to kind of come and show some of those things. I want to get through kind of the heart of this. We've taken a ton of time showing things today, and I want to make sure that we kind of keep things moving along for folks that again, want to get to bed. So as you can see here overnight, that ice continuing to spread through the area, and I think this projection is behind. It's behind, honestly. Let's go back a graphic and come right back in and start this one over again. So start that one over again. Notice the positioning where it has it. Yeah, it's a little behind on where it has it. So the system running faster. And as you can see on our scale here, this is all pretty heavy out here for locations to eastern Arkansas and moving in from the Delta. So heavy icing potential with this as it moves in. Yeah, so Clarksdale, Water Valley, Cleveland, Indianola, all kind of involved in this. Now, notice what just happened there. Did you see how it shifted? We're coming off of the brand new model run to come in just in the last few minutes. I'm going to go back one here for just a second. I know I'm going back and forth a lot, but these little differences make a huge difference when this is all said and done. So I'm going to take this to the end of this. And I want you to just kind of notice where it has this. It has it all the way south through West Point, Eupora, down there closer to Belzona, and thicker toward Greenwood. Now, I'm going to change this back over. It's going to jump. I apologize. It's not going to be perfect back-to-back, but my system's not designed to show them perfectly back-to-back. Notice how there's a lot less showing up on this up in the north, Columbus. So my highest resolution version of the HRRR model goes out 18 hours. So I have my system set to go to the most recent usable one. And I think that might be 18Z. Let me double check that, because that could be part of our issue here. Yeah, that is. Let's bring it to the newest of the new. There we go. So now the newest of the new coming in just in the last little bit here, showing where it's at. So let's walk it forward here. Notice how temperatures are unfortunately colder for many more. Starkville below freezing 9 a.m. Louisville below freezing at 9 a.m. Everything falling overnight, and now at that point continues to be iced. 29 Amory, 25 Tupelo here, and maybe still some snowfall up here near the Tennessee state line. God, can we hope, right? But we are in the heart of the icing potential as we head throughout the day tomorrow. You can see slightly warmer air trying to move in. See that? We represent it with this warm front, and you can see it in Aliceville versus 36 Columbus, and now we're up to the freezing point in Tupelo and Houston and Eupora and Kosciuszko there. And the hope is this starts getting heavy, right? That maybe we warm up just enough. You saw that hit 34 for a second there, at least I did, it's a few spots. That maybe this is primarily rainfall for just a little while. That is hope, probably more than reality, but we'll hope. 6 p.m. there, and again, as we go into the evening, I got to force this one to bring up the most recent as well. I apologize. The new run just came in, and so let's make sure that we've got the newest of everything that we're showing you. So again, this is going to be looking, see that jog? See that difference there? So as we look at the one right before this, and the most recent one, that's a jog slightly farther north. That tells me the system is strengthening a little more overhead. And so maybe it can pull slightly more warm air in. The problem is you're hoping for more warm air. So maybe it melts more. At the same time, the system's stronger. That means where it does fall, it could be heavier. I mean, look at that. Like you have dark pinks. It's about as far as my scale goes, right next to the dark greens. And one spot there, just kind of picking out there in Talbot County, well, there's probably a little thunder going on with that as well. So again, the fight continues into tomorrow night. A lot of folks just slightly above freezing, but I would not at all feel comfortable about this situation if I'm out here, Vernon, Starkville, Louisville, because ultimately this is probably going to be, God, I mean, you're 2 degrees away. Maybe you get saved by those 2 degrees. Hopefully that'd be the case. Look at those storms kind of emerging from the freezing everything, and just incredibly heavy. I mean, this is just heavy icing going on here, about as heavy as my scale can go. So because this system is strengthening overhead, perhaps a few folks out here like Amory or Vernon or Columbus are able to get enough warm air to minimize some of that overnight tomorrow night round. But as I've said multiple times this week, dense cold air hugging the surface is very, very difficult for our models to recognize. So I would always expect it to be colder than warmer in this situation because of that potential. Unfortunately, again, this is where we're also dealing with probably some claps of thunder going along with the icing that's occurring. As you can see, some of these pretty heavy going into the center of this system as you go to a 4:35, 6 a.m. there on your pre-dawn early Sunday morning. And some of these back there close to Belzona, I mean, those probably have some rumbles with them as well. Going to the next one here, I want to show you the difference once again on our projections. And sorry, that one pops all the way back to the beginning here. So let's go ahead and get rid of that if we could. And I'm going to take the last one we had, and we're going to get you through early Sunday. So I'm going to adjust this again. So give me a moment. Apologize that we sometimes have to kind of edit on the fly, but that's the best way to get you kind of the most recent information. So there's that heavy, and that's where we worry, right? See this south of Louisville? It's not a pimple. That little red that you see there, that is that thunder whatever. Below freezing Kosciuszko, right? So right there. Louisville above freezing, Kosciuszko not, and this projection says thunder something, thunder sleet, thunder ice, and more of that thunder ice back here closer to Jackson. I mean, this is very, very deep pinks. That means heavy precipitation, heavy icing ongoing. And as we go into your Sunday, 8:30, 9, 10 o'clock in the morning, we'll continue to probably have that icing on a fairly widespread scale occurring. Some dry air starts mixing in as we go toward afternoon. But this storm system still could wrap behind some snowfall, maybe just a little bit on the backside as it exits. And then temperatures drop in a big way. Watch, I'm going to zoom ahead toward late Sunday evening there. As you can see, low 20s, and we're probably going down into at least the teens, if not single digits, on the backside of this storm system. So let's look at the latest icing here. And it previewed it for just a second, and it is not pleasant. Well, the question is, do you even need a meteorologist to interpret this for you? I will. This is this is historic level icing, is what it is. I mean, you get three inches of icing or more, and there are spots in here. If I went in and I took my little tool where I could find the highest little pixel, I'd probably find a 4 in there someplace. But here's the takeaway. That half inch of ice looks minimal in comparison to this big purple batch, right? That half inch of ice would be a huge ice storm usually. But that is just how ridiculous the amount of moisture is with this system. And if we're cold enough where you're at to support it, I mean, if we're starting now and we're going 24 hours through tomorrow, and then at least 12 hours into Sunday morning, I mean, we have icing opportunity out of this system with multiple waves for what, 40 hours? I mean, that kind of is what it is, unfortunately. So you're sitting on 3/4 of an inch of ice there in Amory. I mean, that could cause some power disruptions potentially. But this is bad. It's just bad. But just not what I'd like to see. I'm sure it's not what you'd like to see as well. Let's look at 7-day forecast, and we're going to pop that thing up where we answer some questions. And I think there's probably some valid questions in there. But we're going to be below freezing again, or at least flirting with freezing all day Saturday, all day Sunday. By Monday, we drop into the teens, and then we're only mid-20s by Monday afternoon. We aren't going to get, I think, below zero this time around, because there might not be enough snow to the north. Now, I could be wrong about that. Snow totals on some of the projections have gone way up near the Tennessee state line. In fact, we'll look at the snowfall accumulations in a second. But 6, 17, and there will be people, our friends, our neighbors, that are without power. I will probably lose power at my house. Now, we've got backup batteries, got a truck out there that's charged 100% that I can run an extension cord in, and we've got ways to make this work. But it's likely we're going to have a significant portion of our friends that have no power because of this. Unfortunate situation, unfortunately. Let's look at the snowfall. Might as well at this point. Maybe that'll be uplifting for some folks. I'm going to pull up. This will be short-term snowfall, and I have to force it to go to long-term snowfall. And again, you can join the conversation on what we're talking about here. Again, a lot of folks watching, a lot of those comments coming in from YouTube, Facebook, all the other different types of social media, and we appreciate that. I agree with some of those folks saying that this seems insane. It's a lot. I mean, even for a meteorologist to try to process, if we're being completely honest, if you can't tell. I'll be honest. Monday I knew we'd have some icing and some snow and all this stuff, but I would not have expected this much. So looking at the latest there, it does have a little bit more snowfall in it up here near the Tennessee state line. Out in Arkansas, obviously a lot more. I don't even have that on my scale because my opinion is you go above 12 there, it doesn't matter. Like, so some big numbers out there to the north and west with this, and maybe again a little flakes to try to mix in. But if you compare this to the last graphic I showed, there's a gigantic difference as far as that is concerned. So I agree with whoever's there. Marvin Johnson said, "Not good, not good" is the way to describe it. I'm going to bring in our meteorologist, Gabe Maynard, here for a second. There's a few other things I do want to show as we kind of talk through this. Before we do that, some very important things that if this is the last chance I get to talk to you for a while that we need to discuss. One is be kind. Be thinking about the elderly. Be paying attention to pets. Be thinking about people that you can help once this event stops. But we need to largely be staying in, and you can argue, sheltering in place over the next couple of days. Because even if you are lucky enough that you're not seeing the worst of this system, you're still seeing something that is pretty rough. And then this is that sleet on Mama Justice Doppler radar. Already starting to see that moving into Water Valley there, getting heavier as it moves toward Coffeyville and Pittsboro. So we're at the very infancy of what is going to be a long and trying few days. And if we haven't given you enough evidence, there's this index called the Winter Storm Severity Index. National Weather Service puts this out, and it talks about the different impacts you can see. And if I go over the entire nation, any impacts from what is a wide-ranging storm, there are If I put on the alerts and see if that doesn't go over top of that. So I'm just going to go back to the local radar for a second to show this. But there are winter storms for thousands of miles around the country, right? This is not just us. This is a lot of people. But out of all of those people, who is in the crosshairs for the worst of it? Where's the pink, which represents the extreme? It's right here in our area, from Chula to Greenwood to Grenada, the Water Valley. This is not a Matt Lopon, Gabe Maynor graphic. This is one put out by the National Weather Service that meteorologists from all around the country contribute information to. And it's expected to be bad. And it's expected to be bad because of the ice impact that really ratchets up tomorrow and tomorrow night, and then going into Sunday. So our 3-day ice impact, extremely high. I'm going to bring Gabe in now, our meteorologist Gabe Maynor, again, behind the scenes there at the studio. Gabe, what do you have?
Well, we have more video coming in from the North Mississippi Storm Chasers confirming that sleet is coming down in Oxford. And so just further adding to the point that, it's here, it's coming down. And as we get a good look right there, you can see those tiny, it's still sleet, but they're on the tinier side, those pellets little just bouncing off of the surface right there. A big thank you to Jeff Moat with the North Mississippi Storm Chasers for sending in that video, but just furthering that message we've been trying to send. The storm's here. We need to be preparing. We need to be where we need to be. And
yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, with that being said, I saw where radar is positioned, Matt. Do I need to head home at some point?
I was thinking the exact same thing a second ago. As soon as you said we need to be where we need to be. Yeah, before that next, let's see how long you've got just to talk about.
Because it's moving pretty quick.
It is moving pretty quick. This is an hour-long loop. Yeah, you're not going to be able to wait out this broadcast. Well, perfect time to test out your home studio. Yeah, let's get you out of there. I mean,
Okay.
I think we need to get you out of there. We got to walk the walk we say people need to walk. So thank you, Gabe. Let's pray everything there at the station, keeps on going and working the way it is. We've got some new equipment in that caused some of the issues we had at 6, but we can reset some equipment if we need to remotely, and everything will power back on correctly and remotely. And here's hoping.
Well,
Gabe,
folks,
appreciate
take care of yourself, stay warm, stay safe, and Weather Center, our room-to-room Weather Center, we will be back here soon. So,
well, let's bring the digital one up. I appreciate that. And we'll bring that up. Our meteorologist Gabe Maynor kind of is shutting things down there and going back to his home so he can shelter in place. Let's be frank, that's what it is, for a little longer. Let's bring up our chat here. Looks like primarily only the YouTube chat information is coming in. So I'm going to have to pull up behind the scenes our Facebook chat. So if you give me a moment to kind of pull that one up, I'll try to answer some of your questions because I know that there's a lot. And I completely understand let's be honest, some of the anxiety that's probably going on with folks. Because, I mean, let's be clear, I'm a meteorologist, and this is a thing for me as well. I mean, ultimately, God's in control, but we have to make smart choices. So plan not to travel over the next 24 hours, and you'll be the next 48 hours, honestly. You'll be in better shape. I'm in the clear air mode there. And let's go look again at some of the cameras. Let's go out to Oxford. Our camera at the North Mississippi Storm Chasers in the Oxford area. As this is moving in, see if our visibility, we're kind of in the county with this. Looks like we still have pretty decent visibility there in the Oxford area. That's continuing to update. It just occurred to me that from time to time, we're probably going to end up losing some of these cameras to power outages. But the Oxford area, if you look in the corner, we'll have the radar here in the corner. A lot of times I'll be standing over top of that. This is calibrated for severe weather. And so that's the reason why there's not as much showing up in that there at this point in time. So final big headlines here. And then again, I'll try to answer some of your questions. 2 graphics that we've shown all week long and both applicable here once again. And that is the winter threats graphic. I would say the only change I could make potentially to this is maybe some limited accumulating snowfall back in the forecast for Northwest Mississippi. But accumulating ice and sleet, likely for most locations. And the fact we're talking about thunder sleet or thunder snow or thunder ice, thunder snow aloft, but it melts as it gets close to the surface. some potential significant impacts there. Expect travel impacts, expect power impacts. And if you are in this orange zone, I'm talking to you on some fairly significant impacts. We've talked about this a few times, but generators could be killers for people trying to get the power back on. Hopefully they've been installed correctly. Make sure they're far enough away from the house that you don't have carbon monoxide issues in the house with them. But you don't want them back feeding the lines, or else we could kill linemen or at least very seriously injure them. And honestly, if not hooked up correctly, it's going to blow up certain pieces of your equipment. They're just, most of the generators that you bought in the last couple of days, there's a good chance that they're designed for, mobile usage as opposed to using them in your house. Carbon monoxide poisoning. I mentioned this a lot earlier, but I want to make sure that we don't waste any time here if this is the last time we get to talk to you for a little while. If you start feeling with flu-like symptoms, it could be carbon monoxide poisoning. We talked to the IMPC people yesterday. There's their logo on the screen. And one of the doctors over there mentioned that flu-like symptoms without a fever is a way that you can tell that you might have carbon monoxide poisoning. Anytime you're burning something, natural gas, your house is probably vented to the outside properly, assuming it doesn't get iced over to where it's closed up, which maybe is possible. But propane, kerosene, if you're burning, you're going to have incomplete combustion. And so as it's burning and using up the oxygen in the air, some of what's being released is carbon monoxide, an odorless, colorless gas that if you breathe it in, could be a killer as it replaces the oxygen in your lungs. Okay, so as we check some of the questions here behind the scenes, someone mentions a solar generator. Hey, I do too. I have a solar panels on the roof. It doesn't do me a lot good in ice, unfortunately. There, someone mentioned Thunderstruck. Batesville, please. Let's talk about this. I spend a lot of my time talking about locations like Tupelo, and I do that because these are the spots here on the eastern end that have the most questions. That's why I've kind of hit that zone over and over again. But I want to be crystal clear. If we're talking Water Valley, Oxford, Senatobia, Batesville, this is all ice for all of these folks out here. And it's going to be a lot of it. So expect travel disruptions, expect all of the issues. Is it moving faster than we thought? Carbon monoxide detectors, by the way, I see someone mentioned that. Carbon monoxide detectors will help you out. So is this moving faster than expected? I would say no. About a day and a half ago, this is the exact timing. Early today, some of the models were a little slower. They've kind of come back into alignment with this. I would say that this is not much earlier or really any earlier than expected. We'll go to Batesville, check out that camera there as we kind of check out what is expected or what is occurring. See how much ice we're kind of looking at there. This camera, again, looking down toward the ground. What is on the camera lens here, the reason it's glossy, that's kind of a sign to me that this could be not just sleet, but maybe a little freezing rain there in the Batesville area as well at this time, because the fact that's kind of moving. So sleet and freezing rain in the Batesville area. Yeah, you can see the drops hitting the camera lens there. I'm gonna make sure I have my chat with the North Mississippi Storm Chasers also up here behind the scenes. Typically Gabe would be on that, but we've sent Gabe home early just to get him, make sure he is in his best location to be prepared, be ready, and be safe. The folks at North Mississippi Storm Chasers say they have a backup generator on the Oxford Tower there, so that one we're hopefully in good shape as well. So questions. We can show that. We can show that accumulation map again. I'm not opposed to doing that. Let's look at that icefall accumulation map again. We could talk some other projections. You know what? Let's look for something better. I'm going to play this through, let it do its thing. Then behind the scenes here, I'm going to go to one of those sites I've been showing over and over the last couple of days, looking at some of the weather data in the raw fashion, for lack of a better way to put it, and looking at those icefall accumulations. So let's do that. So as you can see, this is my accumulation map. I'll make it go to the side there. And the only number I feel happy about, and it's not happy, is the 1/10 of an inch of ice in Columbus and Vernon. And as we mentioned a little bit ago, you guys have been added. I'll come back to this, I promise. I'll drag this up next to where it needs to be at the top. You guys have been added to the ice storm warning. Again, ice storm warning expanded there for Winston, Attala, Choctaw, Oktibbeha, Lowndes counties, Clay counties. You were all not under the ice storm warning earlier. National Weather Service has chosen to upgrade you to that, which is probably the right choice. Let's see if I can get total freezing rain and which projections will show that. And let's go basically till 48 hours. That should get us to the end of the event. We'll be looking at the newest data here. Okay. Ready to see something at the same time I see it? Let's see if we can do better. By the way, I don't expect this to be any better. Okay, so this is where we're going to compare the models on the basically total freezing rain potential between now and the end of the event. That's a lot of big numbers. 3+ inches some spots. It's amazing to me that I'm going to look at 1.6 inches and think, oh, thank God. And that's still a crippling ice storm at 1.6 inches. You've seen this one. This is the model that we've shown multiple times here. I think this is one of the newer ones. Yeah, inch. Again, this is the thing. You can still see inch plus Tupelo, many locations back southwest. These are largely, I mean, if you look at these, there's not a lot of disagreement among them. I mean, 1+ inches, some spots, 2+ inches. I mean, listen. It's like when you ask your friends, does this make me look fat? And they're like, no, but their face says yes. And you ask another friend and it happens. And you ask another friend and it happens again. The average of all of those is probably the answer. You don't want to hear it, but it is what it is. And in this case, the answer is, this is a significant ice storm. I wasn't here in 94. I can't compare because of that. But I can say this one's significant. This one's bad. Okay, I'm going to take down the chat here, bring it back again to the room-to-room weather center as we come back in and show these ice alerts. And I said we'd show this again. This has kind of been sort of our official forecast. I've taken the HRRR model and we've run with it all day long. So because I didn't draw it in by hand, this is going to be our official forecast. And the positioning on this easily could shift east. As you saw, the way in which, if I were adjusting this in any way based off of what I was just looking at a second ago there on all those projections, if I were to adjust this, I'd probably adjust this east a little bit. So let's do that. Might as well just do it live on air, right? So we'll go to the end of this event. There we are. Double check, make sure we've got the newest version. We do. Now let's edit it east. This isn't going to be rocket science how I do this. I'm just going to, one of these days I'll get it right. Yeah, I think that's reasonable. I think with the main stripe, I think you might be able to argue down a little bit around the Golden Triangle. I think these are too high here. But I think the positioning of this main stripe of freezing rain, stretching from Greenville to Greenwood to Grenada to Water Valley to Bruce to New Albany, I think this is probably the core of where we see those heaviest amounts. And as you can clearly see here, some spots 3 or more inches of debilitating ice, unfortunately. How many pounds can a power line hold? Let's just say this. In talking to the folks at Tom Bigby Electric Cooperative, what they said is if you have a 1/2 inch of ice, and listen, there's a difference between what we're showing falling right there and the amount that accumulates on elevated surfaces, in particular, what we call radial icing. We've talked a lot about this week. If this is your power line coming through, you need to get a pencil that's maybe not sharp on both ends. But anyway, if this is your power line coming through, the radius around it, right, the circle that forms around that power line, when you start getting over a 1/2 inch on that radius, which would make it, if the power line were infinitely small, it would make it 1 inch wide on the ice. But basically a 1/2 inch on the outside of that, that's when things start going a little sideways. That's when you're more likely to see it. Now, I'm not saying here, I want to say what we're not saying. We're not saying 3 inches of ice on trees. There will be maybe some sleet that mixes in with this. There will be sleet that mixes in with this. But, I mean, it's a ratio on how much of this ends up on those elevated surfaces. And it is not unreasonable that 1 inch of that ice ends up on those. Now, I am hopeful still that maybe we have a bunch of sleet and that diminishes somewhat. But hope, we got to prepare for something else. So someone asked, what about trees exploding like they saw up north? Now, again, I was not here in 94, but everyone you talk to that was here in 94 talks about it sounding like gunshots going off, right? It's nonstop gunshots as the tree branches are breaking in this. Is that the scenario we're in? In some cases, maybe. I can say that we are maybe slightly better. I can't tell you for sure that trees were starting to bud out that February, because that ice storm was in February. This one is in January, with about 2 odd weeks, a little more than 2 weeks difference in time frame in the time of year. So maybe there was greater width of the different branches that then made it more easily to coat. But pine trees, each one of those needles, if you think of each one of those needles adding a 1/2 inch or 1 inch of ice to that over the course of an entire pine tree, that's just what happens. I got some pretty pine trees on my land. I didn't take pictures of those. I took pictures of the other trees down the driveway. But yeah, it will probably sound like gunshots as it's going off, as the trees just kind of collapse. So another reason, again, to stay inside. And let's make an assessment. I never thought, I didn't think about this until right now. If the part of your house that you're going to sleep in tomorrow night in particular is underneath a part of a tree that looks, like it's kind of hanging over it, and that's a big part of the tree, you might choose a different room to sleep in. I say that sometimes in severe weather, but as these tree limbs fail and fall in the structures, there was a terrible story about a girl that was playing over the Christmas break, and a tree limb fell on her, and she died. Little girl. I'd hate to see something like that happen if you had tree limbs that fell onto structures. There's only so much you can do. You move to the part of the house where you don't have an overhang. But yeah, we don't want to be playing out in this. And I live in the middle of a forest. So who knows if you're going to hear those pops coming over my microphone. Hopefully not. Let's see here what we've got. 3 to 6 inches of ice in the Delta in 94. Almost every power pole was destroyed, and there were some, and I lost that one because it doesn't stay up as long there, unfortunately. But yeah, 94 was rough. Sound like gunshots. Everyone kind of agrees. Is this 94 part 2? I hope not. Okay, I'll check a few other things. What y'all need to know about still so far, so we can kind of talk through this. The graphic you see behind me, maybe I'm a little too far east, but still, I think you get the point that it's going to be rough for a lot of locations, if not most locations. Let's go back here on Mississippi Live Weather Radar, Mama Justice Doppler Radar, kind of check and see where this is continuing to move. Okolona, again, there. And it's these spots like what you see out toward Calhoun City. You see the kind of have those lines, those vertical lines showing up there? That's kind of banding. When you see banding, I do wonder a little bit about, God, I'm not saying that's truly convective, but if we're seeing that already, that could be something. Checking with North Mississippi storm chasers there. So we'll have to double check that. We'll check with the National Weather Service here for a second. Out of Lafayette County, yeah, some sleet there showing up. That's about the only thing in our chat with the National Weather Service there in Memphis at this point here. So not a lot of information coming in on that there. Wasn't as cold in 94 as what we're facing this round. That's an excellent point. Someone just said it wasn't as cold in 94 as we're facing this round. And why that's important, I wonder if this will work behind the scenes here. Okay, this will work. Okay, come with me over to the land where we talk about weird, gross, not weird, gross things, but we look at weather information that's not pretty. So this here is another one of those soundings. We talked about one of these earlier this evening. And this is how we kind of assess the atmosphere. And this line right there, I should be able to zoom this in. Hold on, let me check. Okay, I made that smaller. Okay, there we go. So this is looking at the temperature in this ice storm. This is that warm layer aloft that is eating into the precipitation. And this is our latest version, the one that's showing those major icing amounts. And so this blue line here is this is showing the weather balloon. And so this area right here is the below freezing temperatures. This is the height there. That last, as you can see behind me, not quite kilometer, where temperatures are below freezing after it's already melted, mostly melted there. So it has about 1 mile to freeze. I don't know. What's this saying on precip type? Give me a second here. Let me get rid of that. Show map. Okay, so you can see where that target one was. Let me see if I can change this over to, I don't know if this one's going to let me do the severe weather. So click for sounding. Hold on. We're going to go to a different site here because I want to see this. I apologize. This is going to kind of change behind me because what I'm looking for here is to figure out, dear Lord, are we lucky enough that maybe we get some sleet, more sleet? That would be best case scenario out of this. So I apologize. This is going to click and show a bunch of different stuff as I try to figure this out. Put that freezing rain accumulations. This is another one of those models. It's a little farther north and west, but I want to get into one of these high accumulation areas. We're going to look at this. This is one of our winter soundings. Same kind of thing we're looking at a second ago there. And so that should, oh, see, that's not showing me the precip type. Well, it's not giving me a best guess. Well, that's unfortunate. Okay. Well, the thing I thought I'd get, it didn't get. So I apologize for that. Okay. So more of the story on this one, though. That's also a lot of ice. But that particular projection is a little farther to the north and west. So all that to say, we're hoping for sleet. That's what we've seen so far, but we expect freezing rain becomes more of a factor going forward. Okay, let's check our chat here on Facebook. Prayers for a lot of folks as we're talking about this, as we're kind of walking this through here. Scoot the sounding over to the right. Yeah, I know. I didn't have it perfectly on there where I was hoping to have that on the screen. And again, you can join the chat. For whatever reason, unfortunately, it does not look like the chat is loading from all those Facebook folks onto there. But cold freezing rain reported, yeah, in some spots. Someone mentions, they were 24 with a 1-year-old son in 94. And just pray on these sort of storms, you end up on the warm side. And hopefully that's the case. Some people mentioned that they were out for a month during that storm. I've heard those stories, and I'm hoping that's not the case. I'd be really interested to hear from some of you up here in New Albany and Holly Springs. Give me a moment. This is going to make my audio come on. It didn't. Good. I'm going to see. This will allow me to be able to kind of go back and look back through some of your things. Hold on. Oh, that's the 6 p.m. show. Sorry, give me a second. There's 10. I'm going to look at your comments so I can make sure I can understand what you're saying. Sorry, you're going to have to listen to my voice for a second there while I get your comments up. So sleeting in the Joyner neighborhood. Wow, that's unfortunate to hear. Freezing rain in South Lafayette County right now. I'm going to pass some of these along. If you give me a minute, I expect a lot of folks should still have power in the morning. Someone was asking that. But let me pass those 2 reports on the National Weather Service. Okay, and I'm going to put in there, we also had, sleet in Tupelo, Tupelo viewer. Passing that along to the Weather Service as well. Sleeting in Randolph. Again, let us know what you're seeing there. That information obviously helpful to us. Has MDOT started salting the roads yet? Yes, MDOT was out there salting the roads very early on in this. There have been the brine that they put on. That's a liquid. They certainly that is hopefully helps. But the problem with freezing rain is that does tend to wash things off. Did get a report from the North Mississippi Storm Chasers, Tyler with North Mississippi Storm Chasers, saying that this that we have here in southern Lafayette County is pure freezing rain right now. Well, I am hopeful that you'll have power in the morning. Nothing in northern Calhoun County yet. Really? Interesting. Light drizzle there in Blue Mountain. Also very interesting. So that tells me that this is melting on the front end of this somewhat. I'm going to use a tool here that, again, I have not really utilized before. We'll use the road conditions here. It looks at kind of where the road conditions are a little troubled, and obviously where you see some of the whites and the blues there, that's where it thinks, hey, maybe it's possible that there could be a slushy like initial surface there, but mostly roads are still coming in wet at this point here. But obviously that will change. Checking road temperatures. This is where as the whatever falls, it will cool down the temperature of the road more. We do show up here, once you get up into Tippah County, Alcorn County, up toward Boonville, north of Tupelo, those roads are already down into the low 30s. So we're already up there in spots where this should freeze pretty quickly once it starts hitting those surfaces. So unfortunately, really probably starting to have issues there. And then everything south of that still likely wet, not frozen roadways. Really? Is it? Give me just a moment here. Well, thank you, Mr. Maynard. It's on the way. Thank you. I appreciate it. I'll go back in there real quick. So I will. God. Someone drove up to our house and Emily's like, someone's here. Someone's here right now. It was Gabe. So thank you for the loaded tea. Appreciate that. Okay. Back to what's happening here. And again, no real snow and ice cover at this point here. So I'm going to look at the winter threats on this as we continue to kind of look at how this scale, and then unfortunately this one here, I'm going to have to change the color table. I'll have to spend some time tonight trying to get this coded right. And we'll bring it in the latest time. I mean, it does show it's possible you do have some flakes on the north side of this that are falling right now, but mostly it's that freezing, that zone there. We do have, again, some heavier freezing, whatever you want to call it, freezing rain down here in southern Lafayette County. So that icing moving toward Pontotoc, we should be able to see that out of our camera there in the Oxford area, which might just look wet, because a lot of times, at least initially here, that's what happens. It just starts looking wet. It does look like, for one reason or another, some of those Facebook chats have now started to come in there, so I should be able to kind of at least see some of those. Sydney is mentioning that her husband has to work construction in Columbus tomorrow. Is it safe for him to drive? The answer is probably not. And the reason I point that out is because of this. I'll come back to As I bring it off of the camera there. So that doesn't really look like a whole much there. Let's go to Pontotoc before we go that, and then we'll look at the thing I was about to show. Pontotoc. Just dark. We might have to change where that one's pointed. Oh, well, they have it pointed down toward the ground, so you can see people still on the roads. Get home. Don't drive fast, but get home. Hopefully fairly soon. Okay, so this is what I was going to show here. And this is the warnings and advisories, and in particular, these ice storm warnings that are in effect. So if you're in these purple counties, you should not be traveling starting now. So listen, if I wrote you a note and said, my husband can't come to work today because Matt the weatherman said so, doesn't mean he's not going to get fired. Doesn't mean he's not going to get reprimanded. But should he be traveling? Should anybody be traveling tomorrow morning? Columbus is better than more other locations. But the government has put you under an ice storm warning. And let's be clear, that's what this is. When you look at these, that's the government putting out these alerts. And so with that in mind, I want to read you the direct text that the government put out with this. Ice storm warning in effect from 3 p.m. Saturday to 6 p.m. Sunday. And so, of course, talking about the portion of that later tomorrow, where they're, addressing that there. Hold on, make sure that's... No, hold on. Different time for that. So what's occurring? Significant icing is expected. Accumulations up to 1 inch and additional sleet accumulations likely. Of course, talking about the spots here that we're pointing at there closer to the Golden Triangle. With, I think, the most significant impacts, again, are probably going to be on the western part of this. So, and in particular that, expect power outages and tree damage due to ice. Travel could be impossible. So that's not me. 3/4 of an inch in ice specifically there. But that's not me saying that. That's not Matt. That's the government. Just to let you know, the government said travel could be impossible. So should he go to work? I'm not going to say one way or another. I don't think it is a safe thing to do in many spots, but part of tomorrow you might be able to get to and from someplace else. And I understand that there's just something, some employers don't care. I mean, can I say anything? My employees are going to be working through this. They'll be working remotely, but clearly they're going to be working through this as well. Okay, sleet now falling in Myrtle. Keep your phones charged. Brenda nailed it. Brenda's one of our super fans. She's with us every single night, most shows. We appreciate her so much. She's right. Keep your phones charged up. I mean, keep them plugged in, because when the power goes out, you're going to want that thing at 100. And when the power goes out, you're going to probably be tempted to get bored and don't want to fiddle. You want to save as much power on that phone as you can. And so that means you're going to want to probably turn Wi-Fi off. I would love to say you should be watching us, but the reality is you should be saving your battery power in that case. And if all of the power ends up going out, we do have a radio partner, but again, how susceptible everything's going to be to icing remains a bit of a question, right? I'm gonna go through my email real quick. So the stations, again, we will be on, and we provide weather forecasts for this, all the time anyway. Wizard 106, that's 106.7 FM. God willing, creek don't rise, or creek don't freeze. We'll be able to broadcast with them if necessary. I can't say that they're not going to be carrying us nonstop, but if we get into a serious emergency situation, we can do that there. 99.3 FM, 92.5 FM, and 1061 AM. All the different stations as part of the iHeart Media Group here in the Tupelo area that will be on. Now, that does not reach everybody that can follow us, but we've got to conserve the battery power on these once the power goes off. And if you need a way to charge it, obviously the car can do that in some cases. But yeah, conserve battery power in case there's some kind of an emergency where you need to call somebody. So I would say, as much as I'd like you to watch me, once you get to 50%, you need to make a real hard decision on whether or not you need to turn that thing off. so that you'll still have battery power if something bad happens. Okay, a lot of stuff coming fast and furious through the chat there. Mark mentions moisture coming in faster than expected and will get dangerous fast. Please don't travel. I would say it's about the same level of expectation on timing that we were looking at, honestly, last night. I mean, we might be 30, 45 minutes faster than what we were looking at earlier today, but we're not super fast in comparison to that. But the icing is beginning and will continue to get worse. Looking through the chat here, ice on some of the roads there. Time for Starkville, I think, again, this will be icing potentially through the overnight hours for a lot of us. As you look at the current temperatures out there at this time, they're already, dropping. So pull temperatures up on this map. We'll clear off all those warnings for a second. If I just kind of populate in some of the temperatures, you can see we're already, we're 37 there for Louisville and Macon. We're 36 for Eupor. We're 33 up in Chickasaw County. You get up here in Lee County, we're about 30 degrees. So this cold air is pushing southward more deeply into the area. And as it does, our temperatures will continue to drop and our icing potential will continue to increase. So unfortunately, we're at the beginning of what will be kind of a long stretch of things here. On the wider shot here on Mama Justice Doppler radar, we're going to put the surface analysis back on. This is going to be the 12-hour surface analysis. And you kind of see all the components of this coming together. System really digging there into Texas. One of the things that brings in that thunder and lightning component with this is as this digs in, it's going to really churn up a lot of moisture and cup that up and bring it right up in here. And so we're going to have just a ton of moisture. If you missed one of the things we talked about earlier during the 5 o'clock broadcast, this particular event is in the 99th percentile on the amount of moisture. It's one of the notes that the National Weather Service dropped in there earlier on. A sign that that this really could be a lot of moisture, and that's one of the things that could lead this to be a very high-end icing event, unfortunately. Looking at our chat back and forth with the National Weather Service, again, one of the things that I have not talked a ton about, though they did continue all of their stuff, is just the extreme cold on the backside of this. We're going to be cold enough where we're in single digits behind this. So what freezes could stay frozen for a few days next week, unfortunately. Give me a moment here. I need to check something that came in from. I've had a bunch of texts that have come in here. Look up above in the text message string, and that box should be the link, period. Talking with Jimmy Weeks, who was with Lee County Schools for a long time there. He works with a lot of superintendents in the northern part of the state. We do have a closing page at Mississippi Live Weather where you can actually submit the school closings or business closings. There's a form. It's I'm going to drop it in the Facebook Live chat if you give me a moment here. So right there is how you submit your closings, and it's closings/submissions at msliveweather.com. The thing about that is that we have to approve these, right? I'm not going to approve any closings that don't come from somebody's name at businessname.com, right? So if you're talking about North Mississippi Health Systems, it's going to be what? Somebody's name at nmhs. Is it net? Can't remember. I think it might be. Or if I were emailing in as a business, it would need to come from Matt at msliveweather.com, which is my official business email. We're probably not going to be approving emails that come from yada yada at gmail.com, yada yada at yahoo.com, at icloud.com. Administrators, business owners, if you want your business to show up on our closing page, it will only happen if it comes from name at business.com. That's just one way in which we're screening so we have an idea of what is real, what is fake. There's also some AI that works into this as well to hopefully kind of catch it before it goes. But you want to use an email address that you have because it'll capture the IP number and do the whole thing. Looks like sleeting. So we'll go back here to the current radar. And we'll kind of close that out. Is Mr. Maynard gone, Miss Lawpon? Okay. Okay. You might text him and make sure he's aware that I plan on seeing him on this live stream before I shut it down. So he needs to get the home stuff fired up and going so we can verify that it's working. I appreciate that. That's the person who shall remain nameless that I share a home with. Let's go back to radar. So you're looking at Mama Justice Doppler radar, and here's kind of the next batch starting to come in and get going back out here closer to Greenwood and Greenville. Looking back toward Jackson radar site, yeah, that's probably some fairly heavy sleet and possibly heavy freezing rain as well with this kind of moving there into Greenville at this time. We do have a camera out there that we can check. And this is on a path that'll take it toward Grenada and Bruce and Houston. And listen, we're not going to keep going all night long. We're going to let Gabe come in. We're going to check some stuff out. Hopefully we'll answer a few emails, but we're not going to keep this going all night long. I will say the heat is clearly working in the Lawpon household because it's gotten hot in here, so I've got to take off my jacket. It's just gotten warm. I even have the fan on. As this camera going back and forth, can't really tell looking at that one there on how much icing we're seeing. Doesn't look to be a lot at this point. We're going to kind of walk up our cameras there in the Delta, kind of our first option. And I do see more glossiness on the roadway there in Cleveland. That glossiness is stuff you don't want to drive on because it's 28 degrees right now in Cleveland. And that means that is what freezing rain looks like. It looks like rain, except it's not. It's frozen. I'm going to see if I can pull up our camera there. Give me a moment. And I'm going to see if I can zoom that in toward the ground. So give me a second here. We're going to zoom that in a little closer to get an idea on exactly. Give it a moment here. I'm trying to see some of those tree branches there and see if we have some issues on those. You can't really tell, so it's still too light there. But clearly, those tree branches. This is why ice storms are so impactful, because tree branches like this, they have just all the little fingers, right? It's just all this at every one of those surfaces. If you add an inch of ice to that, it gets extremely heavy, and so that's what allows them to unfortunately break and have all the issues. So our camera there in Cleveland already showing, again, some wet roadways. The glossiness you see on whatever that building is there, that's probably frozen, unfortunately. So as we walk up the Delta there, we'll go just north there of Cleveland to Shelby. Now, hold on. Let's hope that's not the case. A second, because I'm concerned that means that's already iced over. Let's go back. Let's get that camera up. Give me a moment. No, I don't think I have access to that one. James, if you or Stan are listening, I don't have access to the Shelby camera on here, so I can't move that one at this point. But clearly, I believe that is probably a kind of a coat of freezing rain already iced over on that lens there on the camera. So, yep, the icing already happening. This is going to be a long event, guys. And I'm not saying long because it's going to be tiring. It's just I'm always looking for a reason for my forecast to be wrong. It's not, I'm not some kind of masochist or something like that. Like I genuinely want this forecast to be wrong. I mean, I'm a big boy. I can take it if people are going to criticize what I'm doing, but they had to kick this in. Do you see how this changes? I'm gonna stop that for a second here. Folks in Jackson, the radar at least automatically kicked in what we call precipitation mode. And so it changed the mode of the radar, right? I should show you that there, I think. Changed the mode of the radar because it's heavy enough that it's like, oh, we don't have to be in clear air mode. And that tells you this is some moderate freezing rain there out here in the Delta that's just moved north of Greenville, moving toward Greenwood and Indianola and Clarksdale there. Let's bring it back to our standard camera, our standard locations. Back here across North Mississippi. Current time is 11:18 p.m. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lopp, and you're watching Mississippi Live Weather, Mama Justice Doppler Radar. Of course, we have a lot of things going on in the conversation next to me. Winter storm that has moved in will continue to produce significant ice over the course of the next 40 hours. Won't be ice nonstop, but there's going to be points in there where it's rough, and we are talking inches of ice. We are talking power outages likely, and some that could be ongoing for days. I'm going to try early, and we're just going to look at the power outages, and they're not significant, but unfortunately, we've got the first. It's behind me here, so I'll step out of the way. Right where we were showing you that camera there in Shelby, we have some power outages there. Cleveland, Shelby. So could be the first of a lot. Now we're not talking, I mean, again, that's 100. And if we look at the percentage there, it's only 1% of the county, but you got to begin with a number. And unfortunately, that's where it begins. Come back to the regular precipitation mode on Mama Justice Doppler radar. And I'm going to probably have to resave this so that it automatically comes in with the extra precipitation on that there. But we do show a little bit of snowfall. I'm really interested, and I have not seen a lot of reports up here from Ripley, Ashland, Blue Mountain. That's coding in as snowfall. And I'd really like to know if that's what you're actually getting up here. Actually getting a little bit of snowfall. I'm going to pull up that Facebook chat so I can kind of see. And we'll bring again the chat back on here. Again, your report's something that we can look at, and I'm going to get that. I think we might have that Shelby cam up and ready. I'll kind of refresh things here. We'll see if we've got that. Yeah, we've got that now. So we'll be able to look at that. So I'm going to look back at that camera here in a minute. But I honestly think this is heavy enough, and we're at the beginning of the event. This probably is some sleet moving there into Ripley. Nothing in Corinth yet. You're still ahead of that there. Already outages within the first few hours. Unfortunately, that is the case. Trying to look through. Temperature dropping faster than expected. I don't know if it's dropping faster than expected, but it is effectively dropping. No question there. The wind is kicking hard there in Rienzi. Interesting. Let's check out our camera there in southern Alcorn County. We have a camera that's pretty close there to Rienzi. This is our, I just call it South Alcorn camera. And we're sort of looking into this as well. I'm going to bring up this camera, and we're going to kind of move and negotiate it. We're kind of looking back toward the south. I'm going to look a little more west, kind of into this somewhat more. I'm going to see if we can adjust the focus a little bit. There we go. I think we had a little better focus there for a second. But that kind of hue you see at the horizon, that is whatever that is falling, moving toward the camera location. So we're looking the direction there of kind of where the next batch of moisture is coming. And that is that whatever, that could be some sleet, could be some freezing rain, it could be some snowfall that's moving there. Windy in Tishmingo, sleet in Blue Mountain, closer to New Albany, no snow. Okay, so that is all snowfall, sleet so far. Between New Albany and Blue Mountain. There we go. Okay. So appreciate that report there. Belden, nothing yet. Again, it takes a little while sometimes to saturate those lower levels of the atmosphere. As I come back to our camera in Tupelo, we're on the south side of Tupelo with this camera here. Still kind of looking toward the south and west. Sunshine Mills kind of behind me here. That's South Gloucester in the Tupelo area. I'm going to move this camera a little bit more kind of back toward the west as well. Again, partnership with the North Mississippi Storm Chasers is important here, and we do appreciate Mitchell, Cunningham, and Bowling for sponsoring this camera in the Tupelo area. They run commercials with us as well. Again, support those sponsors that support Mississippi Live Weather. It is the only way in which we will keep doing this because we are not charging, and as a free service, let's be clear, these cameras, access to them costs money, paying the North Mississippi Storm Chasers. They're also a 501c3 on this as well. And if you would like to donate to their mission to cover this part of the state in cameras, go to nmscas.org, the way in which you can do that. But yeah, still kind of awaiting. Luckily, nothing there as we kind of look back in the direction sort of walls out of our camera. We're 30 degrees, though, in Tupelo, and that dew point at 14. And so initially here, this is falling into dry enough air that it melts / evaporates as it gets closer to the surface. That drops the temperature more until that number, that dew point, and the temperature number get to be the same. And that's when we're saturated, and that's when more of that moisture gets down to the surface more effectively. Unless you're talking about sleet or something like that, where it's thick enough that it can make it all the way down on its own. As we, let's check something else. So let's keep on looking here. You're watching Mississippi Live Weather. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Loughlin. Current time is about 11:25 p.m. at the beginning of a significant ice storm that's moving into North Mississippi. And though this does show snowfall, we've had very little of that at this point here. Y'all just remember the ice storm in '94 produced the class of 2013. You're going to be stuck at home with some people. Hopefully it's some people you like a lot. I want to go back to that Shelby camera that we had a minute ago, because it was concerning that had so much ice on it kind of so early in this. SHEL. And the reason I get concerned about that's not just that's ice and not just wet, is because you don't really see a lot of movement in it, right? I mean, it's looking towards some light, so there's a little refraction. But this largely, there's not a lot of movement. Like when you have raindrops moving across, you see kind of the whole raindrop move across. That's not really the case on this, which makes me think that it is probably iced over. So we're gonna move this a little bit. And this camera runs a little bit behind, because I can see it here behind the scenes moving a little bit more than this. So it'll take it a minute to kind of move it back. Well, hopefully I'll catch up. We're going to have to work on that one. That's a big delay, unfortunately. Yeah, there you'll see it move. Boy, that's like 20 seconds. That's not good. So you can see how you have like a prismatic effect as that moves. That's one way we can tell that this is covered up in ice, that freezing rain has already covered up our camera there in Shelby, north of Cleveland. So if we're getting freezing rain like that on the front end here, we've got some issues. And that dew point's only 21 there at that nearest reporting station. So a sign that it's making it to the ground regardless. But yeah, that is what freezing rain looks like, a glaze over top of it. Please keep the comments clean. We'll say that I've got some stuff on there to try to filter some things. But yeah, I'll take it down. Yeah, listen, I can take that down, anytime. In fact, I'm gonna bring it back here and we'll do the. Oh, hold on, I plopped it back and forth too quickly. Let's look at, again, some other locations as what's kind of falling here. As I just, honestly, it's probably time we all kind of settle in for the night. And I will mention that we will be back tomorrow morning. Our meteorologist, Maggie Nicoli, myself, Gabe Maynor, Caleb Edelblut, the whole group, the whole kit and caboodle. We'll be getting together talking about things starting at 6:30 in the morning is when our cut-ins will begin tomorrow morning. We'll probably go 8 o'clock. I don't know how long we'll go. It'll depend on if you're sending in stuff, if there's something that makes sense for that. So join us tomorrow morning, 6:30, 7:30 a.m. on Mississippi Live Weather. We will be, doing cut-ins. We'll be on that entire time, but probably just starting at that earliest time there. So we'll come back here again to the Room to Room Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lopp. Current time is about 11:27. I'm going to see if I can pull up some of your pictures. Again, you can submit your pictures using the Mississippi Live Weather app. And so I'm going to pull those up and kind of see what has come in over the course of this evening so far. And I might have to kind of refresh my whole browser here. It might make me log back in again. I'll wait for that to populate in and see if we can show some of your pictures. But if you'd like to share your pictures, do that again. That would be the Mississippi Live Weather app. If you open it up, pretty much right at the top, of course, you're going to have our feed. And then you scroll down. There's a place where you click Submit Pictures. You can either take a picture or send a picture in. And if you do have sleet or something like that, you can send that in using the app. Free and available for all those different devices. And if you're one of those folks watching us on social media here, now is probably the time to download the app. I'll put up again those links there. It's a free app available for all of your different devices, iOS, Android. We do also have apps out for Roku, Apple TV. We do not have Fire Stick. Someday, God willing, we'll get there. But unfortunately, we're not there yet at this point here. That is a pretty substantial sleet band and freezing rain band in Sunflower County, over top of Sunflower, moving toward Greenwood there. That's going to add, little bit by little bit, add up. And that's where the icing kind of comes in. If I were just checking this in regular rainfall mode, and that's what I'm going to do here for a moment, and just kind of checking the rainfall rate, it's not going to be excessive. I'm going to stop this on the final scan here. But this says if this were just rainfall, and we're treating it like that, the rainfall rate on that's about 0.3 per hour. So how long does it stay over top of you? That's kind of how we figure out how much of that you have to worry about. Let's go back over here to the rainfall mode. How long would that stay over top of you? Go back here a few scans. Not long. So that band there is probably producing 0.05 of an inch of freezing rain just by itself. So 0.05 inches just on that one band there. So that's enough that it's already going to mess up some roadways. And that's heading right there toward Grenada, Bruce. That'll head toward Chickasaw County, Houston, Amory. All going to be dealing with some freezing stuff, freezing rain because of that. Okay, can y'all be trusted? Pop it to here. And then we'll go ahead and put the chat up. Keep it clean. Okay. Batesville, asking about Batesville. Yeah, Batesville, you're in it. I would like to know for folks in Batesville what you're seeing right now. Cleveland camera has ice on it as well, so we'll check that here in a second. Hello? Okay. You gotta open the vMix call on the browser. Okay, so I'm still live, just so you know. Okay, so yeah, once that's on, if the laptop's on, let me know. It's on? Okay. Okay, cool. We'll talk here in a minute. Bye. Okay, we'll get Gabe on with us here in a second, again, making sure his studio's up. Again, join the conversation there. Super windy in some spots, windy in Carrollton, sleet in Belden. Really cold there for some other spots. Oh, you're kidding me. So that's not good on his. Hold on. There we go. Okay. Now Gabe is almost online. Now we got to open up his. Give me just a moment here. Get his shot up and going and see if we have it like we need it. So we'll have Gabe Maynor on here with us in a second. Again, I'll try to answer some more of your questions here in just a moment. But I don't know that we need to have this. Whatever, we'll do it this way. Hold on. Give me just a minute here. There we go. Now Gabe's up and going. Okay. And we'll check Gabe's mic here in just a second. Can we do Gabe Maynor from home today? Let's see. Gabe Live Chroma. Let's try it. Oh, I got to click back into my computer here. That didn't work. I see him there. I just need to. Just a second, Gabe, and we'll have you up and going. Apologize, this takes us a minute here to kind of figure stuff out. Gabe Maynor checking his tie. I might not have made the final graphic on that. That might be the reason it doesn't exist. I think I started it. I think I took it out. Oh, well, Gabe, well, we'll get you up and going here in a minute, because I'll bet that's what this one here is supposed to be. Let's put layers on. Other questions y'all have as we're kind of looking at this. I know we're kind of running the steam down on this because ultimately we're just kind of settling in for a night of ice. That is not nice, obviously. And then we're going to put Gabe on top of that. What number is Gabe Live Chroma? 153. Almost there. Okay. Now 153 is me. He's 152. He does exist. Okay, Gabe, you're about to go on the air if you can hear me. So you ready? Give me a nod, yes and no. I do see audio from you, okay? Let's go ahead and try it. 3, 2, you're getting your mic on? Okay, now you ready? Give me a thumbs up.
Hello, everybody. Yes, I am in my son's nursery right now. Does it look good?
Good enough. It's working.
So,
Okay.
a little background. I got this green screen my junior year of high school. I used it for broadcast for my high school journalism program, and now putting to good use post-college. That's a pretty cool story if you ask me. So, we're ready. We are ready. This is exciting.
Well, I don't know if I'd go exciting. It's exciting that you could broadcast from there, but that's about the only angle I'd say is exciting on it. But I get where you're coming from.
Okay.
I know, I know, I know. So, but at least we know we've got another avenue to get on the air if things go super haywire at my house. So, awesome. I'll build the boxes and
Well,
everything.
now
And
it's
we'll
just
go
fingers
here.
crossed that power stays working.
Okay, I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna try a. I do. By the way, I do get a little feedback on that if you get that up too loud.
Let me turn it back down then.
Okay. I
Does that sound
don't think I
good?
have any box. I don't think I have any boxes or anything made. So I'll deal with that later on tonight because the work never ends. Okay. Meteorologist Gabe Maynard there in I guess another version of the room there in northern Lee County. Praying Gabe again keeps his power on and that you do the same. We'll check those power outages again here. I do think we're going to probably try to wrap things up here pretty soon. Again, we can't keep this going all night long. And frankly, we need to get those phones charged all the way up. So again, limited power outages in the Delta there. I mean, listen, we're talking in the hundreds, not beyond that, up toward Memphis and a few toward Pine Bluff. But we're at the infancy of what will be a pretty major ice storm that is taking shape. Again, we're in the light part here. And even that moderate band that we have back there closer to Greenville is in the light part. Look at how heavy some of this is. The deeper blues, the darker pinks back out to the west. So a lot of moisture coming, a lot of ice coming, and none of it's much of a good sign. Do appreciate the folks that have submitted some pictures here. Let's show some of those. This one coming from Lindy. I think Lindy sitting in this picture. And again, this might not be the thing you'd obviously expect me to kind of pop onto the screen here. Let me bring it back in kind of closer. And then we'll pop that on the screen. But yeah, showing the furnace there, or not the furnace, but the wood burning stove, but properly ventilated into the wall. So appreciate Lindy for sending in her picture there. Maybe cozy pictures of what we're going to be looking at. There might be other different types of pictures as well. There are other actual legitimate weather pictures that have come in, including this one here. This one is sleeting now in Golden at 11:37. Current time is 11:39, so 2 minutes ago. And I'm double check the name on this. Name on this is Jordan. Jordan sending us this picture here. This is sleet in the Golden area right now. Again, we're not saying it's big. Not saying that's going to make things overly terrible, but that is ice making it to ground level in Golden there in Tishomingo County. And again, appreciate Jordan for sharing this with us here on Mississippi Live. So to go back again here to Mama Justice Doppler radar, let's kind of look at how that kind of correlates to what we're seeing here on radar. And you'll notice there's very little showing up on kind of the crude version. So we'll bring it here into the higher resolution version here. And I continue to get alerts nonstop, as you would imagine. And we're going to, in precipitation mode, and then we're going to put it to where it picks up the lighter variety stuff. So I'm going to get that right there. And so that up here in Golden is southern portion there of Tishomingo County. So you got that sleet out of that? Okay. That's more impressive than I would have thought. So I'm interested again up here, Tippah County, back out toward Batesville, what you're seeing. I'm going to put the chat back up here so folks can join the conversation. I'll go ahead and kind of check and see, what other pictures, again, as folks continue to submit those pictures, we'll show some of those on here in our gallery, and we can, kind of see the locations that those come in, but I'm gonna wait for that to populate here behind the scenes as well. So Greenwood, that next kind of big band of what is clearly freezing rain, and up toward Batesville, those are the spots we're watching at this moment here where everything's kind of thickest. Batesville still waiting to see if this one's going to ice over the same way Cleveland did. Yeah, as you can see, there's the kind of reflective. That still looks a little more, doesn't look nearly as iced over as the one down in Shelby did and does, as I'm looking at here behind the scenes. So, interesting. Other pictures coming in again. Most of the pictures are folks just some kind of behind the scenes stuff here. Did get this, and maybe this is apropos. So this is a relic from a bygone era, but maybe something that applies. Can I get a viewpoint here that's not so ridiculous? So you see at the top, this was from Entergy, Mississippi Power, sent back in the '94 ice storm, talking about while the restoration continues, many remain without power. This is the worst ice storm in Mississippi history, and if there's one line I hope stays true, I hope that stays true after this. It was the case, and I'm very hopeful that maybe it'll be the case again this time around. But again, appreciate that picture, all the pictures you're sharing with us. Coming in from Hazel Truel, sending that in a little earlier on this evening. Appreciate that. Some other shots here. This would be a sleet shot coming in from New Albany, the Cownville area at around 11:30. Hannah sending us this picture at around 11:30 from Cownville, and just looking at some sleet there. I'll zoom this back in because I zoomed the other one out way too far. There we go. Again, not big. Looks like it's partially melted, so still kind of fighting that dry air near the surface. Let's come back here again to our camera in Batesville, and we bring things back in. I don't show a lot of glossiness on the roadways there, but we're still, at the infancy of this budding winter weather event. Okay, so I'm going to check questions one more time, and I think we're going to go ahead and shut this down for the night. We'll be back up bright and early tomorrow morning, starting at 6:30 a.m. We're cooked. Is that going to be the phrase of the week, apparently? Watching on your phone with a friend, hold the phone up to the ear, wish the volume was like when Gabe came on a few minutes ago. Hold on, am I too quiet? Check. Some people have said my audio was too loud. Some people have said it's too soft last couple of days. The problem is that it's hard for me to hear my audio in real time. So I can boost my audio up a little more. So there you go. So hopefully that's a little louder. Gabe was, by the way, a little too loud. I will have to take him down a little bit. Yeah, his audio is up all the way. Let's fix that. So before we wrap things up, how much ice in Senatobia? Let's review the latest on that, and then we'll kind of wrap things up for the night. So here are the headlines in case you missed it at 10 o'clock. The major overall on the situation. Again, I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lawpon. You're watching Mississippi Live Weather here at 11:45 p.m. That says 10. I restarted the show for a moment. Winter weather alerts involved, in particular, ice storm warnings, as we are at the beginning of probably a more than day and a half ice storm ahead. We might still have as much as 35 to 40 hours of icing ahead of us, which is ridiculous to say. Icing could potentially be very significant. This is one of the models that we've been showing quite often. I think it's one that is fairly accurate on its positioning, and it's not impossible that some of these numbers could be under. But do I have any feeling good about myself on the east side of this? No. A quarter inch of ice, 3/4 of an inch of ice in the higher end there for Columbus, for Vernon, for Macon, that would not be good. And so this is one of our big concerns going through the evening. So the headlines overall, so we don't miss it. The ice storm has begun, and hopefully you have made it to your final destination. If not, we're out of time. Accumulations could and will probably exceed 1 inch, could and will in some cases exceed 2 inches, and obviously major impacts possibly because of that. And power outages are expected. They're ongoing in some spots, unfortunately, and we expect them to become more plentiful. One of the graphics we showed at the very beginning here, and I spent almost no time on it, but I do want to show you, is I want to show you again, what to expect, which is major icing, significant impacts in this peak impact zone. But if you're in the pink, if you're in the orange, you're going to see significant icing. And if you're in the green, while a lot of this that falls will be rainfall, at least some of this will be ice for you as well. So here are our impacts. And I've talked about it for hours. And I'm glad we left this level 1 on accumulating snowfall, because the next few hours was the time frame where that was the most likely. And apparently this north band is not producing much in the way of snowfall. We are level 5 out of 5 as far as accumulating ice and sleet is concerned. Some thunderstorms are going to be possible, which could have localized higher icing amounts, even the what I showed you a minute ago there. And travel impacts are likely for most, including those power outages. With temperatures sub-freezing at least 2 days at the tail end of this, we're going to continue to have some issues. And so I bring you back here to Storm Finder. Now, this is something you're going to see only here on Mississippi Live. It's something I designed with the intent of showing it during active weather, and I'm going to change something on it. I'm going to change the total lightning, and I'm going to make the extrusion, which makes the lightning taller, I'm going to make it excessively tall so that it shows up a little better. Because I'm going to have to look harder than usual to see some of that lightning on this. So let's go ahead and re-rack that and go. So this is Storm Finder. What does it look like when there are storms? Looks like this down here toward the woodlands overnight, right? You see how you kind of have these mounds where it's kind of poking up there? That's looking at lightning concentration. Where there's more lightning, you're going to have taller areas showing up on the map there. The reason we're looking at that is if we're talking about stuff that produces lightning here, so we've got some real issues. Now you notice as far as lightning potential is concerned, the more significant are down here toward Monroe, Louisiana, down toward Vicksburg. But if we keep walking this up into our area, you'll notice there's a little something there. It's not much. Got to get in really close to see it, but you can kind of see how looks like it's kind of sticking up a little bit here. That's a sign that even tomorrow in the afternoon, it's possible that the showers we have could be convective, and that means storms, and that means isolated higher rainfall amounts. Hey, Lily. As we look, though, toward Kosciuszko and Columbus and Amory by 7 p.m., again, showing some thunderstorms there. Now, there are some indications in our models that temperatures could increase a little bit at that point, and hopefully that's the case. But this is going to be heavy precipitation falling, and you can again see Columbus toward Philadelphia, some of those mounds, some of those hills indicating at least a few lightning strikes in the precipitation that's occurring down there. And by the way, the reason this doesn't show much precipitation up north at that time is because I have this calibrated for storms. And freezing rain, freezing drizzle, and snow are light precipitation, so they wouldn't really show up on this because I originally designed this to look for storms, which is, I guess, how we're using it in this case. But you'll see we continue to have that potential for maybe some isolated storms mixing in with this overnight. Yeah, more down south, but overnight and in the early part here of your Sunday morning. The purple that you see on here, storm chances, again, starting to show some color on this there, a sign that storm chances are there and increasing on top of the lightning and the rainfall that you're looking at there. You know, how strong those thunderstorms are. It's not inconceivable that a few of these down south could actually produce severe wind gusts. And there's a non-zero tornado threat down toward the coast. But this batch moving through early Sunday will have some thunder with it. And we are hopeful that not the severe portion, but that the portion that produces the heavy rainfall, the thunder snow, whatever you want to say it is, that eventually melts into thunder sleet, is hopefully just thunderstorm rain. And yeah, that does potentially produce severe weather as it works its way out to the east. So that wraps up what we're going to talk about here on Mississippi Live this evening. Appreciate you guys sticking with us as we go through this. Like, subscribe, join the conversation, stay with us. and we'll keep you up to date on the latest here. I'm going to end with a prayer, and I've barely seen my wife today, but this is her birthday. And something always goes wrong on her birthday, and unfortunately this year, this is what it is. So I hope you'll appreciate the fact that I got to at least spend a couple minutes with her on this. Dear God, please help us. Please protect these people. Please guide these people. Help us to trust you, as always. But God, just protect, keep the power on. Let miraculous things happen to keep the power on for those elderly that need it. And God, just help us to be kind to one another in what is going to be a stressful couple of days. We trust you. We thank you. In Jesus' name, amen. We will see you at 6:30 a.m. here in the Room to Room Weather Center. And we'll continue, of course, broadcasting probably, I don't know, might be 8 o'clock, might be 9 o'clock, depending on how bad the situation has gotten. Ice Storm 2026. Bust, or one of those things we remember for a long, long time? We're about to find out. We'll see you tomorrow morning.
March 24th, 2023 was a normal Friday. You know, we knew the weather was not good, but we needed to take shelter, and we didn't have shelter. My husband and almost 2-year-old daughter, Ethan and Riley, they did lose their lives in the storm. We're still recovering from it. We'll always be recovering from it. Matt Lopon cares about the community. He's not just there to collect a paycheck. I feel like Matt Lopon has proven himself trustworthy.
Right now, from the Room to Room Weather Center, here's Mississippi's Chief Meteorologist, Matt Lobhon.
A significant ice storm taking place overnight, and we do anticipate it will lock a lot of folks in their locations. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lobhon. Icing beginning, won't be for all overnight, but we do expect that there will be multiple chances over the next day, day and a half, and that means ice storm, ice issues. We've been tracking all week here in the Room to Room Weather Center, and so that is what is going on during the overnight hours and the first part of your Saturday morning. Again, accumulating snowfall, not an impossibility near the Tennessee state line. You might see a few flakes south of that, but the thinking is that this changes over pretty quickly to sleet and ice. Ice being freezing rain, rain that comes in contact with the ground, could come from some thunderstorms as we go into Saturday night. And travel disruptions are likely, power disruptions are possible, and unfortunately, you just should not travel. If you're watching this, one of our typical viewers have been watching me for years, you don't need to be traveling. Because as you can see, we have these ice storm warnings in purple here involving